And joining us now for our February Progressive Agriculture Foundation safety message, Jana Davidson is with us. Jana, it's great to catch up with you again. How are you?
I'm doing great, Jesse. It's great to see you and catch up as well.
I appreciate the time. As always, Jana, we have plenty to talk about and a big topic here this month and every month for that matter, grain bin
Yeah.
safety. Grain bin safety week is February 20th through the 26th. And, we're shining a little extra light on being safe around those grain bins because I just think about how many times we hear about someone getting into an accident in or around a grain bin.
You are exactly right. I think the most recent statistics that I've read from Purdue University said that just in the last 50 years, if they look back on 50 years, there were about 900 cases of grain entrapment. And that had about a fatality rate of 62%. So a lot of times when someone does get trapped in grain, many times they're not coming out alive, or they're coming out with some serious injuries that they're going to sustain from that. So
Mhm.
if you look closely on more recent data, I think from 2020, there were about 64 fatal and non-fatal incidents involving confined spaces, in that year. And if you look at the numbers of youth, they said there was about six that were folks that were under the age of 21 that they were classifying in that youth category. So it does happen to children. It happens to adults around our age, and it also happens to our more seasoned farmers as well. So it can happen to anyone. So we're here to just talk to you a little bit about how we can prevent that from happening.
Well, and I think as well, we hear a lot about adults getting into accidents, but children as well, as you mentioned. And I think sometimes children, maybe, especially young children, have trouble understanding and identifying the difference between, hey, this is not an area to play in. Maybe they have some old grain in their sandbox or something like that. We've seen that before around the farm, and they're like, oh, well, this is a bigger area to play in, but it's not a place to play in, Jana.
Exactly. I think the biggest message we can send here is sending the correct message every time. It's really hard to, whether you are at a farm and you're trying to create that safe play area for your child and you decide to swap out that sand with corn, or we see this at farm shows and even other agritourism spots, whether the kids are visiting with their families or they're going with a school field trip, and that agritourism, facility might say, it's easier to have the corn in there than sand. Well, it's not, because it sends the wrong message, because the child might visit with you the one day and think, kind of the message they're taking is it's fine to play in grain and corn. So when they visit that farm, whether it's a family farm, a friend's farm, they think, oh, this is safe. Why was it okay to play in it when I was visiting this farm or this agritourism site, but it's not okay now? So it's sending that correct message. And just, we think of corn being easier maybe to maintain, but it also attracts animals. So what we think is going to be cleaner and easier in the long run might not be, because it's going to attract animals, which also can bring about some diseases. We have to deal with animal feces, other things like that we don't want our children playing in. So yeah, it might seem like the best choice to swap out that sand, but we're telling you it's not.
Well, we think about all of this. And what are some things that you teach children at Progressive Agriculture Safety Days when it comes to being safe around grain bins? What are some things you guys work on with the youth?
Okay, yeah, and grain safety is a big topic for us. If we just look back on last year, on 2021, nearly half of our progressive agriculture safety days held throughout North America had a grain safety component. So that is telling you it is important. But here are just some of the things that we like to talk to the children about. Stay out of flowing grain. It is no place to play, and it is no place for a child to be. So we teach very differently than we probably would adults, where we're going to focus on the adults, on the appropriate PPE and things that they should be utilizing if they are going to be in and around grain. But for children, our message is stay out of flowing grain. Never walk or play in or around any stored grain. Never enter a grain bin, wagon, or truck that has grain in it. Stay away while unloading practices are going on. So if you're unloading the auger or the vacuum suction tube is currently operating, again, children, we got to keep those children back, keep them away. And then the other thing is, if an emergency does happen, make sure, and this is actually something that children can do if they're by and an incident is occurring where somebody is trapped. Maybe it is their father, grandfather, uncle, someone like that. The best thing that they could do is not go in after them, but instead make sure that anything is turned off. So if there's any equipment on that's causing the grain to flow, make sure that's turned off immediately. And then always assume that that victim is alive. We always want to handle the situation as if somebody is alive, and we need to get them help immediately. So getting help, making that call to 911, and then also making sure that there's aeration in that grain bin and so on, just to make sure that we are assisting that victim as best as possible until the help can arrive.
And I think we know as well, it could only take a matter of seconds for someone to get entrapped in a grain bin, or it get have something else happen around the grain bin with the unloading process or the loading process, etc. It only takes a matter of seconds, Jana.
It really does. We say it's just like quicksand. It's seconds. And so we can show this, I can talk about these talking points, but it's so much better to see it in person, the visual demonstrations, the hands-on activities that these children get to experience. And some of them involved, a smaller scale gravity flow wagon, or a smaller scale grain bin, where we actually show children how quickly it can happen through these demonstrations. And again, it's more tabletop, smaller scale versions, but it really does hit home and gets the point across. And anytime we can talk to our adults, our parents, again, we stress that role modeling. Your children are looking at you for those answers. We can talk to them about safety and health, but you're their first teacher. So the more that you can role model and talk to them about safety and show them that you value your safety and health, the more likely they're going to adopt those practices as well.
Well, Jana, I know you guys are busy planning and helping plan safety days across North America here as we get into 2022. And I know folks can learn more as well, progressiveag.org. But talk to us a little bit just how folks can help out with safety days and get involved.
Sure. So our safety days now for 2022, they're getting ready to happen. We're going to see those starting up here in the spring. But the cool thing is, this year, I've never been able to say this before, I don't think, when we've talked around this time, but folks can still apply. I think that's really cool, and get involved for this year. I think when we've talked in the past, it was always get involved for the following year. But the way we have training set up now, it's all online. They're courses, they're at your own pace. So you can do them however frequently you want. You want to get it done in one sitting, you want to come back to it. So the way that we have that structured now is you just need to make sure that training is complete 45 days prior to your event. So if you're listening in and thinking, wow, I'd love to bring a safety day, whether this topic of grain safety resonates with you and your community, or one of our other 30 plus topics might be more of an interest to your community, now is the time to get involved, because one life saved is worth it.
And I know as well, the Progressive Agriculture Foundation, a 501c3 nonprofit. So donations help support safety days across the country as well. And again, more information can be found online, progressiveag.org. That's progressiveag.org. Jana, appreciate the time. Any final thoughts you have for us today?
Jesse, I just always appreciate these messages. But yeah, find out a little bit more about us on our website, as you mentioned, progressiveag.org. And looking forward to keeping these messages flowing throughout the year.
Well, with that, Jana Davidson with the Progressive Agriculture Foundation, we appreciate the time as always. Thanks so much. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Jesse.